Sarah's shift at the downtown diner had ended later than usual. The neon, closed sign flickered behind her as she stepped into the cool night air, her worn sneakers echoing against the wet pavement. At 23, she had grown accustomed to these late-night walks home, but tonight felt different. The familiar street seemed quieter, more shadows lurked in doorways, and an uncomfortable feeling crept up her spine. She pulled her teal cardigan tighter around her uniform and quickened her pace. The city lights painted everything in hues of amber and red, creating a maze of light and darkness that she navigated with practiced ease. Sarah had been working double shifts for months now, saving every penny to pay for her younger brother's medical treatments. The doctor said Tommy needed surgery soon, and insurance would only cover half the cost. As she turned into the narrow alley that was her usual shortcut home, Sarah heard footsteps behind her. Not unusual for this part of town, but something made her glance back. 3 figures emerged from the shadows, their intentions unclear but their body language threatening. Her heart began to race. "Hey, pretty lady," one of them called out, his voice carrying an edge that made Sarah's blood run cold. "Where you going so fast?" Sarah didn't respond. Instead, she picked up her pace, her keys clutched between her fingers like her self-defense instructor had taught her. But the footsteps behind her grew faster too, and she realized with growing panic that she wouldn't make it to the main street in time. That's when she felt a firm but gentle hand on her arm. "Walk faster," came a calm, authoritative voice beside her. "And don't look back." Sarah's first instinct was to pull away, but something in the stranger's tone made her pause. She glanced up to see a man in his 40s, wearing a leather jacket, his dark eyes focused intently on something behind them. There was no threat in his expression, only determination and an odd sense of protectiveness. "Trust me," he said quietly, matching her pace. "I'm here to help." Without fully understanding why, Sarah found herself believing him. Maybe it was the way he positioned himself between her and the approaching danger, or the calm confidence in his voice, but she let him guide her forward. "Who are you?" she whispered as they walked briskly together. "Someone who's been where you are," he replied, his eyes scanning the alley ahead. "My name's Marcus. I work security at the hospital 2 blocks over. I was heading home when I saw those guys following you." Behind them, the footsteps had stopped. Sarah risked a glance back and saw the 3 figures had disappeared, apparently deciding that 2 people were less appealing targets than one lone woman. As they reached the safety of the well-lit main street, Sarah finally exhaled the breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaky with relief. "I don't know what would have happened if—" "Don't think about it," Marcus interrupted gently. "You're safe now. But you shouldn't be walking alone this late. This neighborhood has gotten worse lately." Sarah's shoulders sagged. "I don't have a choice. I work until closing, and the bus doesn't run this late. I can't afford a car, and taxis are too expensive." She looked down at her worn shoes. "Every dollar I have is going toward my brother's surgery." Marcus studied her for a moment, seeing something in her eyes that reminded him of his own struggles years ago. "What kind of surgery?" "Heart surgery. He's only 16, and he was born with a defect. The doctors say it can't wait much longer, but the cost." She trailed off, not wanting to burden this stranger with her problems. "I understand," Marcus said softly. "More than you know." As they walked, Marcus shared his own story. Years ago, his daughter had needed a similar surgery. He'd worked 3 jobs, sold everything he owned, and still came up short. It was the kindness of strangers, doctors who reduced their fees, a community that raised funds, people who simply cared, that had saved his daughter's life. "She's healthy now," he said with a smile. "Graduated college last year and is training to be a nurse. She wants to help other families like ours." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm so glad she's okay. It gives me hope for Tommy." When they reached Sarah's apartment building, Marcus made a decision that would change both their lives. "I want to help," he said simply. Not just with walking you home safely, but with Tommy's surgery. Sarah shook her head immediately. I can't accept money from a stranger. You've already done so much. I'm not offering money, Marcus interrupted with a smile. I'm offering something better. My wife runs a non-profit that helps families with medical expenses. We organize fundraisers, connect people with resources, and advocate with hospitals for payment plans. Would you let us help? Over the following weeks, Marcus and his wife Linda became like family to Sarah and Tommy. They organized a community fundraiser, helped Sarah apply for additional grants, and negotiated with the hospital for a reduced rate. But more than the financial help, they provided something Sarah hadn't had in years, hope and the knowledge that she wasn't alone. The night before Tommy's surgery, as Sarah sat in the hospital waiting room, Marcus appeared with coffee and a reassuring smile. How are you holding up? Scared, she admitted. But grateful. I never expected a stranger to change our lives like this. Marcus sat beside her. You know, that night in the alley, I wasn't just protecting you from those guys. I was remembering what it felt like to be desperate and alone. Sometimes we're put in each other's paths for a reason. Tommy's surgery was successful. As he recovered, Sarah learned that Marcus had started volunteering as a community safety escort, walking late-shift workers home safely. His simple act of kindness had inspired him to do more, to be the help he had once needed. 6 months later, Sarah had saved enough to buy a used car, partly from a promotion at work that came after her manager heard about her dedication to her brother. But she still visited Marcus and Linda regularly, now volunteering with their nonprofit to help other families in crisis. You taught me something important that night, Sarah told Marcus during one of their volunteer meetings. Sometimes the scariest moments lead to the most beautiful connections. You didn't just save me from those men, you saved me from giving up hope. Marcus smiled, watching Sarah help another worried family navigate the medical system. We saved each other, he said. That's how kindness works. It never just goes one way. In a world that often seemed dark and threatening, Marcus had chosen to be a light. And in doing so, he had created a ripple effect of compassion that would touch countless lives, proving that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is simply one person deciding to care for another.